You're starting out that laser business and you're starting to get the odd sale here or there and it's starting to pick up a bit, but you still don't have the budget for a lot of branding in those types of activities. However, you can look just like the big guys and it won't cost you a penny. I'm going to give you my settings and a couple of tips today on LaserNug. As you're slowly starting to perfect those products and do different things as your business starts and begins to grow, you've got a lot of expenses already. You know back here that advertising and branding, marketing, those kind of things are very important tasks, especially to get your brand out, and you want to look professional. A couple of things you can do, which I eventually did, you know, even the packing tape for your packages, you can have them branded, but it's hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get that branding, even on sealing tape. And the reason why is it's not so much the cost per roll, it's the minimum volumes or quantities and the design fees you get charged in order to produce that roll of tape. Which is why on my other website, I didn't actually start branding with tape for about 3 to 4 years until I had enough consistent sales to warrant the cost of it. A couple other things you can do, of course, you can get your tissue paper or wrapping branded or logo etched. But again, it's the same issue. It's the design fees and it's the minimum quantity of sheets of tissue paper. That's what kind of stops you a little bit in your tracks and makes you decide you need to wait a little bit. Another big thing that the big boys do or the big guys do, they brand their boxes. And that again, on a per box basis is not a big expense, but it's the minimum quantities that get you. However, you've got a laser and you've got boxes. And you can brand your boxes yourself. And we're going to do that today. Like myself, you probably have already numerous different sizes of boxes to ship your goods in. And at this point, probably until you get to a point, which I hope you all will, where you've got large, consistent volumes that you can afford to order your boxes in pallets in large quantities and have them branded for pennies a box. You want to be able to do things that elevate your brand and get it out there in front of the customer. So I'm going to give you my settings. I'm going to show you how easy it is and a few tips as to how you can brand your own boxes so that when they go out the door, it's right there in front of the customer. Like myself, you're probably using standard everyday 3mm corrugated boxes for your shipping needs. It's kind of a standard in our weight class, so to speak. Top is reasonably smooth. Then you've got that corrugated part in the middle and then a smooth on the back. So these settings should work really nicely for you for these boxes. And I'm also going to give you the cut settings because I'm going to show you in a coming video why those might be important as well. Let's take a look. So I've just put together a simple logo to put on the side of my boxes. Just says thanks for your purchase. You can put your phone number, address, whatever else you wanted to put in there, but at least it gives that presence of your brand every time a customer receives one of the products they purchased. So I'm just going to highlight that. And I'm going to come down into my library because I always put my final settings in the library. The old memory is not as good as it used to be, so as soon as I finalize settings, I always add them to my library. I've created one called Corrugated Box. It's a 3mm. My engrave settings, 200 millimeters per second, 15% power max and min, 1 pass, 300 lines per inch. And important here, no air assist. The cut settings, 100 millimeters per second, 80% power. Yep, I was surprised too. Min and max, 1 pass. And of course, air assist on the cut for sure. So let's do a box. I click on my engrave. I've highlighted my pattern or my design, and I'm going to assign it to this black layer here. You'll see they changed. My output is there. You'll notice there's no air on. I'm going to go back to the laser. I'm going to fire it up, and then I'm going to send it to the bolt, and I'll meet you there. I'm just going to grab one of the boxes, brand new box. You'll notice that when they come from Uline or wherever you buy them in bulk, they'll usually come very flat already. And even though they are, I always like to throw some weight on top. In this case, I just use my magnets. Let's throw it in and set it up. As I began that testing a day or so ago, I started at 800 millimeters per second in a number of different power settings. It was difficult to find them because I really couldn't find anything on YouTube that gave me a start, so to speak. There was one Glowforge video that I ended up with completely different settings. but I found that these ones will work really well for me. Even though this is flat, I want to make sure I throw some magnets around it just to keep it flat. I've got it reasonably straight. My design's been sent to the bolt. I'm just going to run it over into the middle because I'm going to put it on what I guess is the widest side of the box. Before I go any further, I want to make sure I autofocus. And I'm going to roughly center it into the middle of the center of that carton. Should be right about there. I'll set my origin. I always like to frame it first, and I'm good to go. I have to be honest, when I started testing on cardboard, I was pretty concerned about fire, and that's why I was very careful with the different types of settings I was trying to put in there. It does smoke, you'll notice that, but not to be alarmed. I did consider doing a material test card on the cardboard, but I just wasn't sure what the maximum power or speed would be. And again, I didn't want any flames. I also learned through my testing that depending on the type of cardboard or perhaps the supplier, the engrave is going to come out different. It doesn't always come out the same. Sometimes it comes out a little darker, and sometimes it comes out a little bit lighter. And I'll show you examples of that in just a minute. I get most of my boxes from Uline now, so they're pretty much made at the same specification. So on the several tests on Uline boxes I've done so far, they tend to come out very, very consistent on the engrave. A nice thing about this setting, there is no resin or no cleanup. It has a nice clean engrave. Once you're done, you're done. There's no wiping the side of the box. There's no dust or anything that you need to clean up. It's just nice and clean and it's done. This logo will take, I think, about 5 to 6 minutes, and that is a long time when you think about it. However, you're doing other things in the workshop, or you're getting ready to package your goods or get the bubble wrap around it. Put the box in before you start those activities, and it'll be done and ready to go before you need it. For reference, I did do a number of tests with air assist on, as well as without air. I find that when you put the air assist on, you'll get a much lighter engrave. And that's why when I finalized on these settings, it was without air assist. It's not required. I'm not getting any flaming. And it's a nice clean engrave without air assist, and I have no cleanup afterwards. And remember, this is something you're going to use over and over again. So once you finalize the size and the logo that you want on your boxes, once you send it to the bolt and you do it once, don't forget that the bolt has a 1 gigabyte memory in it. So that file is in there for good unless you delete it. That way you don't have to go back into Lightburn and reopen a file and resend it every time you want to do a box. You just turn the bolt on, go into your file menu, pull up that logo, put your box in, autofocus on the box, set your origin on the side, frame it, and then press start. And then the more time you have in the shop, just keep putting another box in, restart, put another box in, restart. And you can get them done while you're doing other activities. There it is. No cleanup, nice and clean, and a couple of key points about these settings. Your corrugated cardboard, as you know, has a very, very, very thin layer of flat cardboard. Your corrugated part is in the middle, and it's followed by another flat piece on the back. When you're managing your settings, it was difficult to find settings, and took a little bit, where I was able to just lightly engrave this tiny thin top layer without burning through into the corrugated middle. And you'll see that here in a number of spots. If the settings were too light, I got almost this cream colored engrave, which was very light and hard to see. And what I was looking for, of course, is what we've received here, is something that was a little darker, had that nice brown finish to it, and a consistent finish. However, I also noticed that different parts of this cardboard test came out with different levels of darkness, which kind of tells me that it's cardboard and it's not super consistent. So far, these Uline boxes, which are all from the same supplier, I assume, they've all come out the same way, so I'm pretty happy with it. At the end of the day, I hope these settings are good for you to start. You may want to adjust a little bit, but it'll at least get you to a place, or what I believe might be a safe place to start if you're going to engrave cardboard, whether it's for this purpose or others. Are you selling tumblers? Or are you using white craft boxes for shipping or for putting your goods? Not a problem. The bolt has more than enough Z clearance to fit a standard 20-ounce tumbler size box. However, you need to make a slight change to your settings. You're going to want to leave everything the same, except you're going to need to want to change your power setting from 15% down to 10%. That's it. I think you're going to really like the outcome of this engrave on a white craft box. Take a look. At 10%, clean, right out of the laser. No residue, no smudges, no overspray, as I like to call it. It's clean and ready to go. If you leave it at 15% though, I'm not sure if you can see it here in the camera, but you'll get that, that residue or dust into the white around some of the letters. And that's why I found that if I just drop it to 10%, nothing there. All good. So hey, if you have been a little hesitant like I was for a while dealing with cardboard, those settings should be a good safe spot, both the cut settings and the engrave. And I won't do the cut settings today. I'll do that in another video for another purpose, but feel free to try those settings out to cut. You should not get any flame ups whatsoever. You might get a little smoke, just a bit, but she'll cut through nice and clean through both sides and through the corrugated part. It should be a nice clean cut. Give them a shot. And hey, elevate that brand. Thanks for sticking around today. Have a great week. Please be kind to one another, and I'll see you again right here. I'm Gord Potter, and you've been watching Laser Nug. Cheers.